So let's start. We have a very short lecture anyway. This will last for about 15 minutes. Okay, so this is the third topic for this term. No? It's about poliomyelitis. It's one of the other motor neuron diseases. So think of a disease entity that will involve still the motor neurons, anterior horn cell, and then the peripheral nerves. So this time, it's more of a lower motor neuron problem. So what is polymyelitis? It's a disease resulting from destruction of the motor neurons caused by a virus. So it's a viral infection most often recognized by acute onset of flaccid paralysis, weakness, and yapon. It's primarily an infection of the gastrointestinal tract, but may infect the central nervous system in less than 1%. So it has been reported as early as in the prehistoric age, where Egyptian paintings and carvings showed healthy people with withered limbs and walking with canes at a very young age. No? So it's been there on the wall. But it was reported as early as in the late 1700s by a British physician, Michael Underwood, who referred this as a debility or disability of the lower extremities. The first epidemic was reported in the 1800s, where it would affect young children and transmitted through unsanitary food and water. So the cause is poliovirus. It's a human enterovirus. It's in the intestines of the family Picornaviridae or Picornavirus. It's a small RNA containing viruses. Ang mga viruses ay mga very large, medium-sized like coronavirus or COVID, and these are small RNA virus for polio. And there are 3 serotypes, 1, 2, and 3 without cross immunity. Meaning to say, when you get infected with serotype 1, it doesn't mean you're protected with polio na. No? Because there's still 2 and 3, ang imong immunity to 1 is only exclusive to 1. And it has long survival in the environment. Up to 4 hours in water, 6 hours in feces in cold environment, but readily destroyed by heat. So, kung unsanitize ang water, you can easily kill poliovirus by heating boiling water or cooking the food. Okay, so why is this called poliomyelitis? Polio, because it refers to polio, meaning gray matter, and myelitis, meaning inflammation of the spinal cord. So it results in destruction of the motor neurons of the spinal cord caused by this poliovirus. The virus attacks nerve cells in the brain and spinal cord. It has an incubation time of 3 days to 21 days, or on the average 2 weeks. So when you get infected, maybe 1 to 2 weeks pa, and you manifest of the symptoms. The patient becomes most infective in 7 to 10 days before and after clinical symptoms. So the transmission is more often fecal-oral. So halin sa poop sang somebody, and then the patient ingests it, or oral-oral, or also possible. And the virus is present in the stool for about 3 to 6 weeks. Okay, so how does poliomyelitis come about? The virus enters into the mouth, it replicates in the oropharynx and the gastrointestinal tract, then it spreads the lymphatics and hematogenous tract. So there is virus spread along the axons of the peripheral nerves of the central nervous system, and there is destruction of the anterior horn cells of the spinal cord. So this is the pathway. The virus replicates in the oropharyngeal and intestinal mucosa, that's the alimentary phase. Then there's the lymphatic phase, where the virus spreads the tonsils and multiplies in the Peyer's patches. Peyer's patches, lymphatic siya of the small intestines. So aside from Peyer's patches, there are the cervical and mesenteric lymphatic nodes. So that's the lymphatic phase. Then it proceeds to the viremic phase, where the virus is absorbed into the bloodstream and spreads to the internal organs and lymph nodes. then it will lead to either there is no further spread of the virus, the patient becomes asymptomatic or mildly symptomatic, presenting with fever of undifferentiated illness, or it will lead to the neurologic phase where the virus spreads to the spinal cord and brain, leading to its neurogenesis. Okay, what about the incidence? So polio became so popular because it also led to a pandemic. So in 1998, the World Health Organization tried to eradicate the disease globally. Wherein, in 2012, there were just 3 remaining countries, no? Nigeria, Afghanistan, and Pakistan, from the 125 countries in 1988. Well, again, Philippines is not included. Okay, so we go to the types of polio. There's the non-paralytic polio, paralytic polio, and then post-polio syndrome. So for the non-paralytic polio, it's the abortive polio. It recovers or spontaneously resolves. It does not lead to paralysis. And the symptoms, the constitutional signs and symptoms, can just last up to 10 days. They are fever, sore throat, headache, vomiting, all these constitutional signs, fatigue, backache, neck pain, the mga signs of trangkaso, body pains, all of these. Including muscle weakness and tenderness. Mga viral symptoms. Diba when you have viral symptoms, may mga flashing, may mga burning sensation, sometimes patients would get rashes, all these. No? For the paralytic polio, so it manifests as flaccid paralysis caused by damage to the lower motor neurons. And the main symptoms are loss of reflexes, muscle aches or weakness, loose limbs, but there can be partial recovery in 6 months. Then the infective stage becomes dormant. And that will lead to post-polio syndrome. So this is a group of disabling signs and symptoms that affect some people 10 to 40 years after having polio. So later on, nag-dormant siya and then there's relapse again. Where the symptoms are progressive muscle and joint weakness, pain and fatigue, breathing and swallowing problems. It would involve the trunk and the upper extremities, and decreased tolerance to cold temperature. Okay, this is because of the activation of the virus in 50% of cases, where there's progressive muscle weakness and unaccustomed fatigue. So, how is post-polio syndrome diagnosed? The patient should have a confirmed history of poliomyelitis, a period of neurological stability of at least 15 years, and diagnosis of exclusion. So this is considered in endemic areas whenever a child presents with acute flaccid paralysis. Okay, the involvement of polio, 92% of the time would involve the lower limb. Trunk and lower limbs in 4% of cases. Lower limb and upper extremity, 1.3%. Bilateral upper extremities, 0.67%. And 3 parts, trunk, upper limb, and lower limb, 2%. So for the lower limb, the most commonly affected muscle is the quads femoris. And then the most completely paralyzed muscle is the tibialis anterior. So what happens to the patient who paralyzed? There would be what? What happens to the ankle? Oh, because TA is the prime dorsiflex. So that's why nga naka-plantar flex si ankle. For the upper extremities, the most commonly involved muscle is the deltoid. The hands are rarely involved, but most commonly, it would involve the opponent's colleagues. Okay, so 4 deformities of the lower extremity. So there's hip flexion, abduction, and external rotation of favor. There is also knee flexion and valgus deformity. And there's that knee triple deformity. I think this is more commonly asked in exams. What's the component of the knee triple deformity in poliomyelitis? There's knee flexion, posterior subluxation, and external rotation. Equinovarus deformity, lumbar scoliosis, and pelvic oblique. And these are the other deformities. No? So they're just described just the same. hip flexion, abduction, external rotation. There's knee flexion contracture, there's valgus deformity, there's equinovarus. So these are the common presentations in poliomyelitis. Do you know of anybody who had polio? Have you seen anybody? How do we diagnose polio? So the virus is isolated from throat or rectal swabs or stool exam. So for the fecal specimen, it's most sensitive 80% of the time within the first week. It can still be positive 50% of the time up to 3 weeks, and beyond 3 weeks, just 25% positive sensitivity. And we detect for the presence of IgM antibodies. Okay, is there a cure for polio? We would want to stop it. There's no cure. So we give vaccination to prevent polio as prevention. So modern treatment approaches are relief of symptoms, early recovery, and preventing complications. And there are supportive measures, antibiotics. Do we give antibiotics for viral infections? Usually, we give antibiotics for bacterial infections. Viral infections, we don't give. Because supposedly, ang viral infections are self-limiting. So, makayanan lang sa immune system of the body. However, during the time of COVID, it seems nga mga viral infections are too strong. They're coming too strong. It would make the immune system lower and lower, nag-back down siya. Wherein there would be co-infection or super-infection by bacteria. And that is when you would give antibiotics. So we give antibiotics, like during the time of COVID, for a superimposed or co-infection, bacterial infection. So essentially, we don't give antibiotics unless there's concomitant bacterial infection. We give antiviral agents. Okay, there are analgesics. We recommend patients moderate exercise and nutritious diet. Of course, there's a role of rehabilitation, orthosis and other assistive devices, and surgery if necessary. Maybe for contractures, for deformities. Okay, so down to my last slide. This is very, very short. So, there is vaccination for polio. I think this is most important. So there are two types of vaccines for polio, the oral polio vaccine and the inactivated polio vaccine. So the oral polio vaccine was developed by Dr. Sabin, Albert Sabin in 1963. It's a live attenuated virus. So the it's an alive na virus, in-attenuate lang and then injected or ingested to the body. And that is what is available in the Philippines. So that's what we give to the pediatric population. It's administered by drops. It's highly successful in reducing transmission in developing countries as part of eradication strategy. In contrast to the Salk vaccine by Dr. Jonas Salk in 1987, it's a killed virus. So injected siya, it's highly effective and safe, kaya i-kill na siya mo. Pero attenuated na kasi alive, mag-persist pa, no? So this time it's killed, and this is used by developed countries because it's quite expensive. So OPV is easy to administer, patak lang. But it provides humoral, mucosal, and gut immunity. So immune system, the intestines, immune system, it will cover for that. It prevents paralysis and reinfection. You just need 2 drops. And the storage is minus 15 to 25 degrees Celsius. Whereas for IPV, it requires a healthcare professional for injection, provides humoral immunity only. It prevents paralysis but does not prevent reinfection. And that's my last slide. Do you have questions?